Well, this has been a long time coming. This is my review of the JayJays belt kit system. I got this system, it's been about 6 months now, almost 7 months ago, and there is a bit of fading from where I've used it, and it has been used in different configurations. I've used it on reconnaissance, pretty much slick, and I've used it pretty much fully loaded doing fire and maneuver. Now this version actually is not the multi-terrain camouflage that they use standard. This is actually the full multicam version. It was the only one available. I was actually going for their tan one, which is a little bit less expensive, but I could actually dye it if I want to, or if I wanted to. And it would have more like this color. It's actually kind of a bright tan, so I would kind of mess with it, get it dirty to where it's permanently like darkened from, you know, usage or whatever. But this one has actually served me just fine, and with the fading and the usage, I think it's going to turn out just fine. So let's go ahead and talk about this. If you're unfamiliar with JayJays Webbing, it's most of their bread and butter is actually stitched on pouches, right? Because they came up with the concept. Well, they didn't originally come up with the concept, but as far as like perfecting it and getting constant feedback, they're one of the best, I would say. So they've got a really good system here, and they've settled on the Commander's webbing because it can work for pretty much anybody for the most part, except for a few different people, but we'll talk about those options. So all this stuff is stitched on. They have the standard British style magazines. These are not the Spanish clips. These are just Velcro. I took some 550 cord here and made little nubs or whatever, or monkey fists or whatever, just to make it easier to grab. I attached a condor dump pouch right here, and it has Molly on the outside of the double mags here, and you have 2 strips of Molly on the outside and 2 rows. And on the front part here, I actually have a Dutch grenade pouch. So this thing actually works just perfectly for my monocular, and it's silent to close it and silent to open it, so it works out perfectly having the Spanish clips. All I did was I cut off that little flap that tends to sway on Spanish clips, so I just cut this little piece off that typically dangles around and clacks against other stuff, so it's nice and silent. Each one of these pouches can either carry 3 5.56 mags, 3 30-round 5.56 mags, and I actually prefer, instead of actually having my rounds facing out away from me, I actually have them facing back, because I noticed that when in the prone and in different positions, I can actually grab these a lot better. And with the slant that it has right here that you'll see, with that slant, it actually makes it a lot better to grab the frontmost magazine, so you don't have to, you know, goof around with anything. As far as retention of magazines, this is also the best way to have your magazines so they don't just fall out if you're in the prone, because that is actually a problem that I noticed at first. So, on the other side, you have Commander's webbing, and as usual, you got the Molly, 2 rows and 2 columns of Molly on each side. Actually, it's 3 on the Commander pouch, and they have these little loops here, so if you wanted to bungee your stuff to get it nice and tight or whatever, or just attach other things, I would actually take a bungee and put it on here if you could. But I carry 6 extra magazines, and I have the divider in here. It's just a little Velcro divider for your admin stuff, and I just put my, what the British call TAMs, but I don't actually use it as a TAMs. It's just a blank little reporting sheet, right in the rain. So I figured, from my experience, you cannot really get good detailed information on one of those tiny little 3x5 right in the rain books. You actually need a generous amount, but that's something for another video, right? So now let's talk about these other pouches, and then I'll get into this part, the yoke, as it's called. So with this, you have canteen pouches, or at least what I use as canteen pouches. Now, some people may have opinions about using the Camelback versus a canteen. I like canteens. It's really good for, you know, my area. I can collect water and I can sanitize it in a controlled manner. Camelbacks are not as controlled. It's a little harder to filter the water. You kind of need a few steps in order to filter the water and then treat it. With this, I can just take a slit of pantyhose and use a rubber band around the base, and then I can put the canteen under water, and then I can drop in purification tablets, which I'm always able to carry right here. Takes up no space. Duct tape it on there. It's good to go. And also under here, this is my most common one. This is my support size canteen pouch, so I carry it like cam cream so I can re-up my camouflage. It's kind of a constant thing when you're in the woods. If you've ever actually done anything in the woods, you'd know that stuff runs like hot butter. So on the other side, this is my firing side. I'm not gonna let the grip off of my weapon to grab things over here unless it's an emergency. So this water is considered an emergency canteen. By this time, I need to actually start looking for water, and I don't drink off of my belt unless I don't have a day sack or I'm out of water on my day sack. And even by then, if I'm close to out of water on my day sack, then there's no reason why we shouldn't be looking for a watering hole, right? So to speak. So on the other side, I actually have some MRE snacks. Typically, you want to have something that's going to replenish electrolytes. You can also buy electrolyte tabs on the internet. So I'll keep that with a water source because water alone is not going to cut it. You actually need to replenish electrolytes. It's not like the old Army concept or old military concept. Hey, if you get bored, take a drink, because that's actually caused dehydration to accelerate. And it still does because we're still human, right? Okay, so above the canteen pouches, you have these little tri-glide loops here. These are good for this little dingus right here. So it can turn this into a radio pouch. I can take this off and lash it through here to turn this into a radio pouch, or this one into the radio pouch. Now, if I was going to run a radio, I would actually get a MOLLE radio pouch and MOLLE it onto the canteen pouches, because on both sides of each one of these big pouches, you have a triple layer of MOLLE. So three rows of MOLLE and 2 columns, and then of course you have the MOLLE on top. I'm not really sure what you're going to be able to do with the MOLLE on top, except for maybe run a cord or something like that. But I don't really see me wanting to, put anything on top of these. But who knows? Maybe one of these little Dutch grenade pouches would go on top of here nicely, but I don't know. I just don't see a need for it. But anyways, that's on you to decide, right? Alright, so these last two, I have one that's dedicated to medical. So I have my IFAK insert with all my med gear in here. And I got heating blanket, some, painkillers, or ranger candy as it's called. Some medical tape for improvising a sucking chest wound treatment. So also a triangular bandage for, pretty much the same thing, a bandage or whatever. So might use gauze and a triangular bandage to plug up the issue. Alright, so that is my med pouch. And they're pretty generous sized pouches. And the problem with these pouches is you have a big pouch and you tend to want to fill it, right? You tend to want to put it to use, and that can be a big problem. I don't have a smaller container of bug dope, but I like this Ranger Ready stuff, not because it says Ranger on it, but just because it works well. Also, got 2 civilian style smoke grenades, the EG-18s from Enola Gay. I got an orange and a blue. They're good high contrast in the wood, so they actually help blend. So if you're using that as coverage, it actually works very good for that. Also got a multi-tool and a thing of electrical tape and a weapons cleaning kit. Now, this is a controversial subject, actually putting this in your belt kit, but in this case, it's a 24 to 48 hour patrol, and I'll be constantly leaving my pack, or maybe I have something else going on. So just basically slipped it in there for that kind of scenario. And I can go 24 to 48 hours without food. It's going to be kind of difficult to do it without water, so hence why I have water and just a few snacks for electrolytes. So, anyways, that's basically my loadout for now. I mean, it always varies, it always changes, and that's why you probably want bungee cord to actually tighten these up. That way you don't have stuff rustling around, because these are actually pretty good sized pouches, right? So, If you were to actually like shove magazines in here, you get like five AR mags and then still have a little bit of room, from my experience. So use them for what you will, right? Now, let's talk about this yoke. This yoke is I believe it's Danish or whatever, but I was able to get a 3-pack of these yokes on Sportsman's Guide for like, 13 bucks. So these things are really nice, even putting them on Alice gear. I have them set up on my Alice gear. It's a 6-point harness head. Works really well. Basically just like British issue, they just copied the concept, right? Now, you could buy the JayJays system. It's just going to be more expensive. I think it's like over 150 bucks to get their basic patrol yoke system. Now, this front buckle here. This system, right when you get it, you're going to need to lubricate the polymer to get it to help break in a little bit. Now, it can be an issue, getting used to, because you actually do push in. At least for me, I was used to just like pushing snaps, but when I first started using this, it was not this smooth. Like, it was actually a little bit gritty, but adjusting it, you can see I adjusted the length of pull, and then I looped it back through, and now it's just hanging out here. I don't really feel the need to like tape it down. I just feel like it would just cause unnecessary amounts of troubles, because especially if I want to take some of this out and readjust it to give myself a little bit of length after Thanksgiving, or whatever, or after a long fast, right? So anyways, that's JayJays Webbing. Obviously in here you have the nice panel stuff, and I've never had an issue with breathing. I can wear about 40 pounds of gear and I still feel good enough to carry more, which is ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous, but this system is like the most efficient for being able to carry stuff. It definitely does not bounce. Even if it's not fully loaded, it doesn't really move around all that much at all. It conforms very well. Now, if you are not happy with the pouch setup, such as the commander's pouch and the mag pouch, you can get the chameleon system, which I believe is just a little bit more than this rig right here, the multicam version. But what I like is that JayJays actually sells their mag pouches, and I think that's actually going to be my next purchase, because here's the thing. You know what Velcro does? It wears over time, and just like my dump pouch does. So it wears over time, it becomes less and less effective. So the other thing I can do is I can actually replace this with a Molly version of what the British are issued in their Spanish clip securing system. So you actually have two different ways that it can go, and the Spanish clip is a little bit more reliable, kind of like the Alice clips are, as long as you don't damage the little teeth. But I like the idea of not having as much Velcro, but a system that'll last a little bit longer. So maybe the chameleon system would maybe work a little bit better. I do like this commander's pouch though, so I'm kind of torn between that and just having two ammo pouches. But I'll just have to play with it and see what I think. But I think that is going to be my actual next purchase. And again, I got another 3-pack of these, so I'm kind of ready to set it up. But if you like this video, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this. Yay, nay, undecided. And if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free. But I'll go ahead and put a link to JayJays' website. It seems like it's changed recently. Like they redid their website and everything. Everything's a little more streamlined. But they got a lot more products than just this. A lot of good military gear. So with all that said, I appreciate you guys watching. And you guys have a good one.